Hey everyone, welcome back to Garnock Reviews. Since starting my channel, a lot of my subscribers and followers enjoy looking at trawler yachts, and you're going to love this one. This is a 2003 Grand Alaskan 65 flush deck motor yacht. If you were to order this boat brand new today, you wouldn't get much change back out of $5 million, but this one's been offered for sale at the time of shooting this video in Daytona Beach, Florida for $799,000. I love the design of this one, from the Portuguese bridge forward. She's got a shoal draft hull design, and she's got a fully covered walk around side decks. She measures in at 65 foot in length. She's got a beam of just almost 18.5 feet, and she's got a maximum bridge clearance of 32 feet. There's multiple boarding points, but as we step on board here, this is almost midships. Straight away I like the solid handholds that's in place, as well as the wide decks for walking around the boat. It feels very safe and secure. This is covered overhead, and it does have lighting throughout, so it'll be well illuminated at night. And not only is there door access on either side to the helm, there's also boarding access on either side. Makes it far easier to operate this boat with a limited number of people on board. And as we walk around this one, I also like the fact that it's got the non-slip deck. It's not abrasive or intrusive whenever you're walking, but it's in really good shape. It'll be very beneficial, especially if you were out at sea or in wet weather. On the bow, you'll find we've got a Maxwell 3500 windlass. This has got dual capstans, and there's two plough anchors secured on the bow rollers. They've each got chain and rod. This can be operated at the bow, but it can also be operated at both the helm inside and the flybridge. We've got comfortable bow seating area here. There's also storage underneath those seats. We've got full wraparound window covers on, and that helps protect the woodwork in the inside. And as we walk around, again you can see we've got more storage options. And then as we turn the corner, and you can see the complete passageway the length of the boat, you start to get a sense of just how much space and stability you have as you're transversing from bow to stern. And you'll notice that deep shine that's on a lot of the superstructure. The yacht's exterior was professionally refinished with all grip covering by Marker Yacht Refinishing at Harbour Town Marina in Fort Pierce in 2016. In here there's an opening in the handrail. There's actually like a boarding gangway, which I'll show you later on, that can mount to the side here, so that you can just walk up the steps and board for easy access. Then we'll walk through this door, and it takes you into the aft cockpit. I like the fact it does have a door, that way you can close it off if you've got pets or young kids on board. You've got great seating options here. You'll probably get about 6 or 7 adults here. And just behind my left shoulder where I'm standing right now, they can actually mount a TV outside as well. And this area benefits from that extended hardtop overhead. And we also have more storage options underneath the seats. We then have a few short steps, and this takes you down into the lower aft cockpit. And personally, I think this would be a great spot to do a bit of fishing. This area is self-draining as well. And the hatch covers here you see on the transom, that's leading into the owner's stateroom, which I'll show you in a few minutes from the inside. And then we do have a deep lazarette on here, and this gives you not only access to your rudder and steering gear, but there's also plenty of storage down here, and this is where you currently find things like the gangway that I mentioned for boarding. You can also secure your ropes and fenders down here for when the boat's underway. Then if we step inside, you are not going to be disappointed with this one. As soon as you walk in, that woodwork just hits you how well this boat has been designed, built and finished. I love the headroom that's throughout. I'm 6'2" and I don't have any issues anywhere on board. On the starboard side we've got a teak desk that's built into it. You can use this for catching up with emails, but you could also use this in part as a navigation station, plotting out your next course. There's a spiral staircase that leads down to the owner's stateroom, but it also leads down to the engine room. And on the port hand side is where you'll find the saloon, and this has got L-shaped seating. There's storage underneath the seats. And I really like the cockpit table that's here. Not only does it fold out so that you get the extra leaves, especially if you were having meals. It's very much solid in construction, with a great varnish finish to it. But when you open the border leaves on this cockpit table, the table actually also lowers as well. So this saloon area can double up, and you can have a double berth here as well if need be. And you can see we've got 2 stools that's currently stored underneath here as well. The hatches you see on the deck, they lead into the engine room, but there's better access I'll show you in a minute. We then have the galley, and this has got a breakfast bar with 3 stools. This is an exceptionally well equipped and designed galley that's obviously designed for long-term cruising, perhaps liveaboard use. You see we've got the granite countertops and the backsplash. The galley is kitted out with stainless steel GE galley appliances, and this includes a dishwasher. And as we pan round, you'll see we've got plenty of countertop space for preparing meals. And then we do have a microwave oven. You've got a 4-burner electric stovetop. And then down below, we've also got a full-size GE conventional oven. Also like the fact you get a full-size fridge freezer, as it's got the water and ice dispenser on the door. And then opposite the galley, we've got what basically looks like a pantry. You could store all sorts of dry goods in here, canned goods, things like that. And I like that throughout this yacht, all the doors have got the louver effect, and that way you get plenty of air and ventilation to avoid dampness and mould. And what you might not expect on a yacht of this size is that it's actually got a day head on board. That way your guests will get access to the toilet without having to worry about anybody going into any of the cabins down below. And you see there's plenty of space and privacy in here, as well as having a wash hand basin and space for your toiletries and personal belongings. And if we go down that spiral staircase, I'll take you to the owner's stateroom. There's a good solid banister on here to hold on to. There's also courtesy lights built into the steps themselves. And at the bottom of the stairs, the door to the right leads into the engine room, which I'll show you in a few minutes. But if you turn left, that takes you into the owner's stateroom in the aft cabin. I love the wooden finish that's throughout this yacht. There's so much detail to it. So the master stateroom has got a queen size island berth. There's access throughout. But it also has 2 custom made single quarter berths. When this one was designed and built, it was designed so that basically a married couple, if they've got young kids, they can keep the kids close by and keep an eye on them while they're asleep. But these mattresses are easily removed, and you can use this for additional storage if preferred. And as I pan the camera around, you can see all the storage drawers that's available in here, including storage underneath the bed itself. As we make our way across the stateroom, this will be the port hand side of the hull, and you can see that this mattress has been removed to show you what it can look like as well. And this stateroom does have a Panasonic flat screen TV mounted on the bulkhead for entertainment. And you see the hanging lockers we have in this stateroom are all cedar lined, as well as being illuminated. As you'd expect, this stateroom is en suite. It's got a large heads compartment, plenty of headroom, there's plenty of storage, plenty of countertop space, and then behind the door you'll find we've got the full standing shower. And this is probably a good time to point out this yacht comes with a 100-gallon holding tank capacity. She's got 300-gallon fresh water tank capacity, and she's got 1500 gallons of fuel on board. And then as we head out this stateroom, I want to show you a storage compartment underneath the steps. Normally I don't focus on this because it typically looks like clutter, but if you look at it in detail, this is all the documentation, all the receipts, owner's manuals, you name it, that's went into all the maintenance and upkeep of this yacht that's included. And then as we move forward, it does take you to the engine room. And I also wanted to point out just how solid and thick this engine room access door is. It's literally the width of my hand, and most of that is from soundproof and insulation. And then when you do step into the engine compartment, you've got so much space in here to operate and maintain the machinery. You're looking at a pair of Caterpillar. These are 3406E diesel engines. They're approximately 800 horsepower each, and they've got just over 2700 hours on the clock. I'm told that the cruising speed is 12 knots and the maximum speed is 15 knots. And at 8 knot cruising speed the fuel consumption is 10 gallons per hour, and at 13 knots cruising speed the fuel consumption is approximately 50 gallons per hour. Given a 200 gallon reserve, the cruising range is estimated to be around 600 nautical miles at 9 knots and 350 nautical miles at 13 knots. The 200 gallon fuel reserve is quite conservative, so the range could actually be greater. And as well as the main engines, you've also got a 25 horsepower bow thruster. There's Wesmar stabilisers, and there's 2 Northern Lights 4-cylinder 16 kilowatt generators. And as much as I try and avoid being in front of the camera, I'm going to pan the camera around, and it's just to show you how much headroom and room is in here. As I said before, I'm 6'2". If this boat was underway, you could easily service and maintain the engines without any issue. Down here you'll also find that there's 5 zone for the Crusair air conditioning. You get Fireboy automatic fire extinguishing system. There's an oil changing system for both the main engines and the generators. And there's a tank tender fluid level gauge for the fuel and water tanks as well. And if we jump back up and lead forward into the bridge area, the first thing you'll notice is just how much window coverage we have here. It gives great visibility as well as natural light. And in the pilot house, the lower helm offers a Stid helm chair. There's an L-shaped seating area, which I think is great for having your closest friends and family with you as you're cruising along. But this one also has a cockpit table that folds out and drops down and becomes a double berth. And this would be ideal as a watch berth for any passage making you may be doing. And you see we've got more storage drawers underneath the seat, as well as a storage compartment along the base as well. And as I mentioned earlier, I like the fact that there's both access on the port and starboard side to the deck. You got that traditional ship's wheel in the middle. Helps really set the tone and character to the boat. And I liked how detailed all the control panels and breaker switches were. It was very easy to work out where everything was, as well as having gauges to monitor, including the generator controls. And at the helm itself, you'll see that this is a very well equipped boat that's designed for long range extended cruising. She's got Westmar gyro stabilizer controls here. You've got bow thruster hydraulic side power controls. You've then got the full cat diesel engine controls and monitoring. You've got access to your trim tabs as well as your electronic throttles. You've got a Garmin 7612, this is a multifunction display. It's a GPS chart plotter. This was installed in January 2018 and it includes the Sirius weather feature as well. We also have a Furuno 48 mile range radar. And then we've got extra electronics including the autopilot. It's got an ICOM VHF, it's got an AIS transponder, there's a Furuno depth sounder, there's a Garmin apparent wind speed and direction indicator. That really helps whenever it's close quarter manoeuvring. And overhead you've got controls to your bilge as well as a tank tender fuel monitor system. And speaking of overhead, I like the fact that there was ventilation hatches overhead, and this does have the mesh screen so you can have it open to get fresh air without having to worry about any of the bugs and debris coming in. And also notice that solid handhold that's down the centre line, that way if you are under heavy weather there's always something to hold on to. Those steps that lead up to the flybridge, we'll use those in a few minutes, but first I want to take you down the spiral staircase to the forward accommodation. I like how there's a solid banister that runs the length of the staircase, but there's also handholds overhead too, and it makes it very easy for transversing. And once you get to the bottom of the steps, you'll find that this has got the VIP stateroom. This is basically underneath the helm position itself. And this one features again a queen size berth in the centre line. I like the fact it's an island berth so you get access on either side. Again, there is great headroom in here. There's also ample storage that you could be a guest on board for weeks if not months at a time. It's tastefully furnished and decorated. And then as with the master stateroom, this one is also en suite. And again you've got the toilet, you've got the sink, you've got plenty of countertop space, and you have got storage space for your toiletries and personal belonging, as well as having a separate shower compartment. And then one feature in this stateroom that I really liked for extended cruising is this one's actually got a washer and a dryer built in. Not only do you need that for keeping up with your clothes, but it's also for keeping up with the towels and linens on board as well. And then on the opposite side of this stateroom, we again have hanging locker space, and this one's also cedar lined. And from this angle you can see all the drawers and storage compartments that's available on this side of the cabin as well. I also want to show you some feature that's on most of the staterooms in here, and that is the sliding covers that's over the windows. It kind of reminds me of the Japanese design, but you can slide these back and you've got additional light and ventilation, and you could use them as additional storage if you wanted to, but I just thought this was a neat design feature to have on board. And as we make our way out of the stateroom, you can see part of the illuminated lights on the stairwell. And then the next one I'll take you to is on the port hand side, and that is a twin guest cabin. This one's more of a bunk bed design, but there is storage space in here with drawers on the left hand side, and there's a hanging locker behind the door in here as well. Now this cabin and the forward cabin, they share the heads compartment that's on the starboard side. You can access it from this companionway, or you can access it from the forward stateroom. This one again is a queen size berth. It's accessible on either side. You have ample locker and storage space throughout this stateroom. This one also benefits from having the overhead hatch, and again you can have light and ventilation, but it's also screened and meshed in, so you don't need to worry about any bugs. And then on the starboard side, this is that doorway I was mentioning that leads into the heads compartment. And then here again, you've got the toilet, you've got the sink, you've got storage for your toiletries and personal belongings. And this one's got a shower compartment as well. So in total you've got 4 heads compartments. One's a day head that's next to the saloon. You've got the owner's stateroom that's ensuite, the VIP stateroom that's ensuite, and then the 2 guest cabins here share this head. And if we go back up to the pilot house, I can show you access to the flybridge. You can see this can be illuminated with courtesy lights leading up, which would be ideal at night. And the flybridge up here is absolutely massive. To start with, at the very back end of the flybridge, there's a 15-foot rib. This was purchased in 2008. It's got a centre console steering. It's got bimini top. It's got a 70 horsepower Yamaha 4-stroke outboard. And this is launched or retrieved using the 1,500 pound capacity hydroelectric davit lift. You then see we've got a freezer, an outdoor freezer that's stored up here. And that is real beneficial considering on the starboard side we've got a full grilling station. So you can use that freezer whether you're trying to keep your burgers or your steaks, or perhaps the fish that you caught earlier. You can keep all of that there. You've got the grilling station on here. And then there's a massive saloon area that's got plenty of table space and seating for your friends and family to join you. And one of the advantages of this flybridge design is it's got that solid hardtop overhead, so you get plenty of protection and shade, but you still have that outdoor feeling as you're cruising or at anchor. You can see there's 2 large storage boxes behind the seats. There's also storage underneath the seats. There's speakers throughout the flybridge, and that's connected to the Fusion stereo system. And at the flybridge we've got most of the navigation equipment that was down below. Up here you've got an AIS transponder, there's a Garmin GPS plotter, there's a Garmin AWS and AWI instrumentation, there's a full Caterpillar engine display, there's a Furuno radar, ICOM VHF, you get a depth sounder, speed log, there's a loud hailer, and you also have your electronic throttles and bow thruster controls. And I like how clearly labelled everything is up here. And there's also plenty of space up here if you wanted to add any additional navigation equipment, or perhaps want to upgrade it in the future. You can tell this flybridge definitely been designed for cruising and not just for close quarter manoeuvring. But whether you are cruising or docking the boat, the visibility you get up here is absolutely stunning. There's very few blind spots compared to some other boats that I've been on in the past. And then one other feature I wanted to show you on this one before we wrap the video up is that the entire hardtop that you have in the flybridge, in my opinion, it's a big great space to utilise having solar panels if you ever wanted to. Especially if you're planning on spending any time at anchor. Save having to run those diesel generators all the time. Absolutely love being on board this one. I'd like to thank Joe and his team for allowing me the opportunity to come on board. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. If you haven't done so already, please hit that like button or the subscribe. It really does make a difference. And I look forward to catching you on the next one. Thanks everyone.